Scorpio, welcome to your weekly horoscope for April 27th to May 3rd, 2026. My name's Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer. Scorpio, this is your week, not in a light celebratory way, but in a deeply transformative, truth revealing way. You are at a turning point in your identity, your relationships, and how you show up in your life. And what's being asked of you now is honesty and at a level that you cannot bypass because this is about who you are becoming and what can no longer come with you. Now, on April 28th, we have Venus in Gemini forming a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. This is activating your eighth house of intimacy, shared resources, and transformation, and your fourth house of home, family, and emotional foundation. This is depth meeting foundation. This is you understanding something about your past, your family dynamics, or your emotional patterns that shifts how you relate to others in the present. Conversations may feel deeper, more revealing, more transformative. This is healing at the root. But you do have to be careful of trying to control or trying to manage emotional outcomes or avoiding vulnerability because it feels too exposing. You don't need to control what you feel. You need to understand it because that's where your power lies. Then we get to April 29th, and we have Venus and Gemini forming a T-square with the lunar nodes. We have the South node in your 11th house of friendships, social circles, and community, and the North node in your 5th house of self-expression, creativity, and personal joy. This is a karmic crossroads between who you've been for others and who you are for yourself. This is you recognizing where you've been seeking validation, possibly from other groups, friendships, or external environments, and how that may have pulled you away from your authentic self expression. The North Node is calling you back to yourself, to your joy, to your creativity, to your individuality. You have to be careful of staying in environments that feel comfortable but don't truly reflect who you are, suppressing your authentic expression to maintain belonging. You need to ask yourself, am I showing up as myself or as who others expect me to be? Because your evolution requires authenticity. Then we get to May 1st, and this is the emotional peak of the week because we have the full moon in Scorpio activating your first house of identity, self, and personal direction. This is your reset. This is you seeing yourself clearly, who you are, who you've been, and who you are becoming. You may feel ready to release an old version of yourself, maybe letting go of patterns, identities, or behaviors that no longer align. This is a rebirth. But again, you do have to be careful of emotional intensity, over identifying with what's being released, feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of the situation. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding what no longer belongs, what no longer is aligned, and what no longer is true. This is your moment to step into your power, but it requires letting go first. Now, also on the same day, we have Venus in your eighth house forming a sextile to Saturn in your sixth house of work, routine, and health. This is grounding your transformation in reality. This is you taking the emotional clarity you've gained and applying it to your daily life, changing habits, setting boundaries, and creating routines that support your growth. This is where transformation becomes sustainable. But be careful of trying to control the process, forcing change instead of allowing it to unfold naturally. You don't need to rush your evolution, you need to support it. And then we get to May 2nd, and we have Mercury entering Taurus, and this is activating your seventh house of relationships, partnerships, and one on one connections. This is a shift into connection. After a deeply personal and transformative week, this is where your focus begins to move outward into your relationships. This is grounded communication. This is honest, clear conversations that build stability and understanding within your partnerships. This is where you redefine connections. But you do have to be careful of stubbornness or resistance to compromise, holding on to your perspective without considering another's. You need to stay open because relationships require both truth and flexibility. Scorpio, this week is about identity, authenticity, and transformation at your core. You are being asked to release who you've been so you can fully step into who you are becoming. And that requires courage because letting go is not easy, but it is necessary. Scorpio, this week is not just about change, it's about rebirth.